This week was a busy one in AI news. I mean, not only did we get two huge releases from Google and Anthropic, but that was just the tip of the AI iceberg. I mean, we got word on what OpenAI is going to do on the hardware end. And I think one of the things that they're working on is going to surprise a lot of people. We got a handful of pretty big non LLM releases that we'll talk about, like Google's Pomeli photo shoot. But what most people are actually talking about, the fact that two AI leaders did not join hands at a global AI summit. So don't worry, the imaginary or maybe real AI beef is still alive and well. All right, there was a lot to cover this week. If you miss anything, don't worry. We're going to get into it. Let's go. Welcome to Everyday AI. My name is Jordan Wilson, and if you're new here, well, this thing's for you. Everyday AI is a daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping everyday business leaders like you and me not just keep up with what's happening in the world of AI, but how to make sense of it, cut through the BS. We tell you, here's what matters. And that's exactly what we do on our Monday show each week, the AI news that matters. So if you are new here, yeah, we do this thing Monday through Friday. But for the most part, on Monday, we focus on the AI news, telling you what happened and what to expect. But we do this thing Tuesday through Friday as well. So if you haven't already, please make sure to go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for the free daily newsletter where we're going to be recapping not just what we cover on today's show, but all the other daily AI news that matters. And while you're on our website, make sure if you haven't already, two numbers I keep saying, you got to know them. 712, 713. Those are the two episodes that you are going to want to listen to if you haven't already. That is our 2026 AI prediction and roadmap series. So make sure you go check those out. All right, let's get into the AI news that matters. I'm excited for it. Live stream audience, good to see you. Looks like the YouTube is finally working. Big bogey face. Good to see you. Joe joining us from Fort Lauderdale. Brian joining us from Minnesota. Jose from Santiago. Everyone else, thank you for joining us. Yeah, it's unedited, unscripted. We do this thing. All right. First piece of news. Could Anthropic surpass OpenAI when it comes to revenue? Well, according to at least one recent report, it could happen. So according to the information in Epic AI, Anthropic's annualized revenue has been growing at an impressive rate of 10 times per year since it hit $1 billion, significantly faster than OpenAI's rate of 3.4 times per year. And reports show that if these growth trends continue, Anthropic could actually surpass OpenAI in annualized revenue by the middle or end of this year. However, recent data has shown that 10x growth rate from Anthropic has slowed and leveled off a little bit to 7x since July, indicating the initial rapid expansion that Anthropic was experiencing kind of from 2023 to 2024 to 2024, 2025 might be slowing down just a little bit. OpenAI's growth rate is also expected to slow, with projections for 2026 showing a 2.2 times increase in revenue, and Anthropic forecasting growth for 4 times or less for the rest of this year. So despite these slower projected growth rates, according to reports, analysts still expect a crossover point at some point when Anthropic's annualized revenue might exceed OpenAI's, like I said, might happen in late 2026 or early 2027, according to reports. So this come as recent news showed that OpenAI is now telling investors it is targeting roughly $600 billion in total compute spending by 2030, a narrower and lower figure than the 1.4 trillion infrastructure commitment previously cited by CEO Sam Altman. So OpenAI projects more than $280 billion in total revenue by 2030, with consumer and enterprise businesses each contributing roughly half, signaling an effort to more tightly align spending plans with expected commercial returns. OpenAI reported $13 billion in revenue for 2025, but burned about $8 billion last year, according to reports, and improved on its own internal targets. So I'll say this. There's going to be a lot of talk about revenue. Some reports are going to be accurate. Some aren't. I don't know about this one, but if you haven't seen the headlines, expect this to spill over to social media soon, and people are going to be talking about, oh my gosh, Anthropic is it's taking over, right? One thing to realize, especially if you listen to this show every day, if you work in and around AI every day, especially if you are terminally online, like a lot of people are, we live in a bubble, right? When I see reports like this, I'm like, probably not, right? If I'm being honest. I'll maybe do a dedicated show on this at some point, right? If you want to hear who's winning the AI race, like for real, go ahead, drop me a comment. I don't know, say race. I don't know if you guys want me to talk about this kind of things, but if you're listening on the podcast, or go leave a Spotify comment, or if you're on the live stream, just say race. I'll see if anyone actually wants to hear me blab on about this. But a couple important things to note here. If you are just in this AI bubble, people think it's a very tight race. It's absolutely not, right? You say AI, everyone thinks ChatGPT. No, like for the most part, no one has heard of Anthropic, right? A lot of studies out there, you look at and you're like, oh my gosh, this says, Anthropic has taken over the enterprise. Oh, guess what? That study was done by Anthropic's largest investor. So you really have to understand what's real and what's fake. Is Anthropic crushing it on the revenue side? I think absolutely. I think, and I've said this since probably 2024, I think Anthropic has prioritized revenue per user where OpenAI could care less, right? At least according to what they're doing and the moves they're making. I think all OpenAI cares about is, number one, owning the enterprise, and number two, owning the consumer market. And they're at least undoubtedly doing one of two of those things, maybe both of them, right? Because they're going to be hitting 1 billion weekly active users pretty soon. And on the API, right? So much of Anthropic's revenue comes from the API side. And those things are just a one click away sometimes from potentially losing billions of dollars. And like I talked about it on the show last week that no one else is talking about. I don't know why. Anthropic's revenue comes from the API side, right? They don't have millions of business customers or hundreds of millions of users like OpenAI does, like I think that Google will be catching up pretty soon. Anthropic has dominated from developer software engineers on the API side. Their API usage is slipping, according to at least OpenRouter. So for the last time last week, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one talking about this because I'm the only one dorky enough to check. It's the first time in a year that they haven't had a top 3 model on OpenRouter, which tracks API usage, at least through OpenRouter, which is the most popular one in the world. So I don't know. Could it be this, the Claude bot, OpenClaw fiasco that caused them to tank? Maybe the Super Bowl ad left a bad taste in people's mouth. I don't know. But at least when I see reports like this, could it be true? Maybe. Doesn't matter. I don't think so in the long run. Because I do think at any point, OpenAI can, turn on 5 new streams of billion-dollar business revenue, and I don't think Anthropic can. All right. Speaking of this beef that's going on, all right, a couple people want race. Marie said it. George said it. All right, we'll see. Speaking of the beef, well, the reported or alleged or real beef, depending on how you look at it, between OpenAI and Anthropic was on full display for the global scene to see. So live stream audience, you see it with a picture on the screen. I'm sure if you're listening on the podcast, you've seen this by now, right? But there's a little bit of a tension between OpenAI and Anthropic that was on stage at the AI Impact Summit in India. So at the India AI Impact Summit, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Anthropic CEO Dario Amado shared a kind of awkward on-stage moment where they kind of refused to join hands right at the end. Literally all the big AI CEOs went on stage with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Everyone raised their hand, right? It was this, kumbaya moment. And there you have CEO Sam Altman and Dario standing next to each other, and they didn't link hands, right? So there's, I don't know, about a dozen or so, AI leaders and dignitaries on stage. Everyone joins hands, and Sam and Dario don't. Modi, there's been so much talk about this. I almost say like, why talk about this? But I think I have to, because technically it was probably one of the most talked about stories in AI. So here's what happened. So Modi lifted Altman's hand for the photo, but Altman and Modi kind of just instead raised their fist, right? It looked like Sam looked over at Dario, kind of lifted his hand, right? I watched the video replay a couple of times, so it's probably intentional, right? But a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's Sam's fault. Oh, it's Dario's fault." I don't know, but the tension follows Anthropic's recent Super Bowl ad campaign, criticizing OpenAI's decision to introduce ads in ChatGPT, where they use words like betrayal and deception to highlight concerns about ads interrupting AI interactions. That ad was obviously not well received. A couple of industry benchmarks show it was one of the least liked ads in the last 5 years. And Anthropic, I believe, only had like a 7% brand recognition. So most people didn't like the ad and they didn't even know who Anthropic was. Yet it is Anthropic seemingly changing their tone and their messaging and approach and kind of going on their bully pulpit a little bit. So Altman publicly at the point called Anthropic's ads clearly dishonest and accused the company of doublespeak, defending OpenAI's approach to making AI accessible to billions, including those who cannot pay subscriptions. So for the actual AI summit, Impact Summit itself, that was held this past week in New Delhi, India, and it concluded with the adoption of the New Delhi Declaration on AI Impact. So that's a non-binding agreement endorsed by 89 countries and international organizations, including the US, China, and the EU. And it focuses on AI for all, seeking to bridge the digital divide, right? Another thing that grabbed a lot of headlines, a lot of people are saying that, Sam Altman did a pretty good job kind of, talking and communicating that message on AI for all. And a lot of people were kind of roasting Dario for, he went up and gave a kind of a more robotic speech reading off an iPhone the whole time. So, I guess if nothing else, nothing really happened at this global summit. Everyone thought something would, right? Oh, we're going to see some new announcements or breakthroughs in technology. No, there was a non-binding agreement that companies signed that doesn't really mean anything. And then an awkward photo op where everyone on the stage was holding hands except the CEOs of OpenAI and Anthropic. So there's your daily dose of the AI drama. Yeah, Big Bogeyface says it was super awkward. I agree. At least though, I think it was the ChatGPT developer account on Twitter posted a picture instead where they put claws on Sam Altman. So OpenAI was at least, having fun with it and, referencing their recent acquisition of OpenClaw. So that was fun. All right. But I mean, poor Google, all this stuff, and Google released the world's most powerful model and no one seemingly batted an eye, which is crazy to me. And, speaking of those two episodes, I tell you to keep listening to 712 and 713. I said this in one of my predictions. I said, at any point, Google can release the world's most powerful model. And since I did that show, they've already done it twice with their Gemini 3 Pro DeepThink and then their new Gemini 3.1 Pro. So let's talk about the now world's most powerful model that, even though it grabbed a few headlines, it doesn't seem like people are talking about it. So Google released an update to its marquee model with the new Gemini 3.1 Pro, introducing a 3-tier adjustable reasoning system that allows the model to scale its thinking effort from quick responses to deep multi-minute analysis. So this new feature makes Gemini 3.1 Pro act more like a lightweight version of Google's specialized DeepThink reasoning system. So here's some details on what's new from Google's new model. So Gemini 3.1 Pro has those 3 thinking levels. There's low, medium, and high. So if you're on the developer end or using it inside AI Studio, you'll see that. And that enables developers to balance speed and depth of reasoning depending on the complexity of the tasks. The high setting now kind of mimics the capabilities of Google's DeepThink. I'd say it's like a DeepThink Mini, which I know might be kind of confusing, right? If you think of like the most powerful version of each company's models that's available on front-end AI chatbots, right? So let's just use the big 3: Anthropic Claude 4.6, Opus, Gemini 5.2 Pro, and let's just say Google Gemini 3 before this, right? If you use the Pro or the most powerful versions for front-end consumers, I'll say this: the GPT 5.2 Pro can work for more than an hour and do very impressive work, right? Claude 4.6 Opus, 10, 15 minutes, if you give it a pretty hard task. Before Gemini 3 Pro, a minute, right? So now with this 3.1 Pro, and I'm not saying that thinking time always corresponds with better outputs. I will say a lot of times it does, but even for myself, sometimes when I was using Gemini 3 Pro and I gave it a very complex task and I'm constantly, split testing things across, 3 or 4 providers at once, even just for the fact of not needing the outputs, but understanding how each of the highest reasoning levels work. I was always like, wait, how did Gemini 3 get this done so quickly, right? And sometimes the quality of the response is more nuanced, right? It's not always finite. Oh, yes, this model won, but I do, and I have personally enjoyed, the new Gemini 3.1 update with a little bit more of that thinking. But from the benchmark side, yeah, it's absolutely just absolute dominance once again by Google DeepMind. So benchmarks results show dramatic improvements for the new 3.1 variation where they scored a 77.1 on Arc AGI2. So yeah, if you follow all the dorky benchmarks, I don't know, the best models in the world like a year or so ago were in the sub 20s on Arc AGI2. So now Gemini 3.1 Pro scored 77.1, which is more than double of Gemini 3 Pro's 31%. And it does also outperform competitors, including the 2 marquee models from OpenAI and Anthropic. On academic and scientific reasoning benchmarks like Humanities Last Exam and GPQA Diamond, Gemini 3.1 Pro also leads with scores of 44% and 94% respectively. On the agentic side, huge improvements as well on those multi-step workflows, which is what everyone's paying attention to, that and tool use, as Gemini 3.1 Pro scored a 68.5 score on terminal coding and 85.9 on web search capabilities. So pretty interesting, though, here. Google's shifting over to a point 0.1 version, which they haven't really done often, right? So usually Google's been, going to, Gemini 2, Gemini 2.5, Gemini 3, going with an incremental update. But I think that's where we are right now in the state of AI, where companies can and probably will be releasing these more incremental versions, right? So we saw it with GPT-5.2 and with their GPT-5.3 codecs. We saw it with Claude's 4.6 models, and now we're seeing it with Google. So I do believe that's the first time we've seen this. So the new update is currently available in preview across multiple Google platforms, including the Gemini API, AI Studio, Vertex AI, and Android Studio. Whew. Yeah, comment here saying Google for the long game. Yeah, that's what I've been saying for a long time. Google has more access to cache websites or websites that they're able to crawl. They have the advantage for YouTube data, right? And just for search and search intent. And so, yeah, I've always said that Google is playing the long game, and they've been playing the long game for the past, I'll say, 6 months. But at any time, they can drop in and win the short game, right? So if we see a GPT-5.3 from OpenAI, because right now we just have a GPT-5.3 codex, right? So if OpenAI comes in with a world-shattering GPT-5.3 for ChatGPT, which I think is very possible and could, in theory, happen any week now, I think that Google, if they wanted to, could come out with a Gemini 3.2 Pro that might top it on most benchmarks. Can't speak today. That's fun. All right. Speaking of new model releases, again, poor Anthropic. This is the second time in just as many weeks, I believe, that they've come out with a new model and instantly got swiped up by their competitors because, I think it was last week or the week before, they came out with their premier Opus 4.6 update. And then literally, I think an hour later, OpenAI came out with GPT-5.3 codex, which wiped the floor with Opus 4.6. And then here, Anthropic released Sonnet 4.6. And, for 2 days, it looked really good on the benchmarks. And then Google came out with Gemini 3.1 Pro. Anyways, Anthropic has introduced Claude Sonnet 4.6, its new default AI model that sits in the middle. It is both faster and less expensive than their Opus 4.6, but it also improves coding capabilities and computer use skills like clicking and navigating software interfaces. So this new upgrade narrows the gap between Anthropic's premium and mainstream AI models, making advanced features accessible even to free users, which could broaden the company's base. So yeah, if you didn't know, right now, Anthropic kind of has three different tiers. So the tiers are Haiku, which is their smartest and cheapest model, right? And not as smart. And then you have Opus, which is the big one. That is their, much slower, much more expensive if you're using it on the API side. That is their, powerhouse model. And then in the middle sits Sonnet. But what is interesting here with the Sonnet 4.6 upgrade, well, it did better on some things than its bigger brother Opus 4.6, such as certain coding benchmarks and computer use. So yeah, Claude Sonnet 4.6 outperforms the recently released Opus 4.6 model on certain real-world office tasks, meaning users might not need to pay for the higher priced Opus tier. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people that were still using Anthropic's models for OpenClaw as an example, although I think people are kind of moving away from Anthropic models for that in mass. But I did see a lot of people kind of move away from Opus 4.6 for certain tasks and just move to Sonnet 4.6. So the new Sonnet 4.6 is better at handling long chunks of code by understanding context before editing, avoiding redundant logic, and delivering quicker, smarter answers. So a couple things on the performance side. Sonnet 4.6 matches the performance of the previous Opus 4.5, so across all benchmarks. I know that's confusing. So Opus 4.6 still leads Sonnet 4.6 on many of the major benchmarks, although Sonnet 4.6 now eclipses the previous Opus 4.5. So if that kind of levels it out in your head. Also, the extended context window for developers, it does a 1 million token context window in beta, which doubles the previous maximum. All right. Brian here says Sonnet 4.6 does really well on most tasks I've tried. Yeah. If I'm being honest, I haven't done as much testing on Sonnet 4.6 as I would have liked to, right? The release cycle happening now, right? It's kind of conference season. We have the NVIDIA conference coming up. We have, Google's conference coming up. So, kind of in this, first quarter, the releases are just so fast, right? Because companies are gearing up for their kind of major announcements, usually in the March, April, May. So it's pretty tough, even for someone that just does this. This is all I do. It's tough to do all this, right? All right. Here is what I think is low-key, maybe the biggest story of the week. Because, yeah, Google released Gemini 3.1 Pro, which, like I said, is now the world's most powerful model. But that wasn't even the thing that got the most traction from Google this past week. It was actually not even a new mode or a new app, right? It was an update to a piece of Google AI software that I think a lot of people have never heard of, but I think it got a lot of love for the right reasons, and it's really, really good. So Google Labs has introduced a new feature called photoshoot within its free marketing tool, Pomeli, aimed at helping small to medium-sized businesses generate professional product images easily using AI. So photoshoot uses Google's generative AI, including Nano Banana, to transform any uploaded product photo, regardless of the quality, into polished, market-ready images. So users can select from various shot templates such as studio, floating, ingredients, in use, etc. The last of which includes AI-generated models to show products in real-life scenarios. So the tool also offers lifestyle image features, that features the product in typical use cases, replacing the need for some maybe to hire professional photographers in some marketing tasks. So businesses can upload a photo or simply provide a URL of their product online, making the service flexible and accessible without requiring photography skills or equipment. And then after selecting the preferred shots, photoshoot generates new images that users can download for free to use in their marketing campaigns, aiming to reduce the time and cost burden of digital marketing for smaller companies. Google emphasizes that Pomeli and Photoshoot are designed to help smaller businesses keep up with the demands of online marketing by producing authentic on-brand visuals without needing to hire professionals to do it. So currently, Photoshoot is available in the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, expanding Google's suite of AI tools that impact creative industries. Let me know, live stream audience, have you all used this yet? I actually have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'll tell you why. And again, maybe this is one of those shows that I should do later. But the interesting thing here, before I give you my personal take on this thing went absolutely viral. And that's why a product update news, right, made it into the top news story. I believe it had more than 23 million views on Twitter, right? Whereas their Gemini 3.1 Pro announcement had like a small fraction of that. Here's my take. Okay. I think that, and this is a maybe, right? Maybe if this thing takes off, if Pomeli Photoshoot takes off, I think this could be looking in 5 to 10 years down the line. This could be one of those instances where people look back at and they say, oh, this is when a lot of roles changed, right? I'm not saying this one, Pomeli Photoshoot, right? But I think this could be one in a series of many where it made data, at least on the creative side, day-to-day creative professionals change their workflow. And I think this is one of those things, right? I've talked about for years, this upcoming shift from operator to orchestrator, right? Go listen to the 2026 AI prediction and roadmap series for more on that, right? But essentially, humans, even over the last 4 years with very powerful AI, we've still been the operators, right? Pushing the buttons. This might be one of those. Yeah, we're still pushing a button on Pomeli Photoshoot, but this might be one of those that turns a lot of creatives into orchestrators, right? Orchestrating AI to get the job done. So, in the same way that, Photoshop was seemingly at the time very disruptive to the photo industry, I think Pomeli Photoshoot could do that, right? I think it's going to be a very polarizing feature. You have to also say that this technology and these capabilities have been out for at least a year plus in many other popular, at least popular in AI circles, AI apps. But this is the first time we've seen from a big company, and by big company, I mean Microsoft, Google, Anthropic, OpenAI, that we've seen a tool like this that brings drag and drop creative powers to the masses, right? So obviously I'm talking about more than an AI image generator. Again, that's still, I think, orchestrating, right? Uploading multiple, photos into something like GPT image 1.5 or Nano Banana Pro, right? And then, doing the work to try to get something else. To be able to drop a photo that's not that great and to get a variety of product shots that your business can use, I do think maybe if this does take off, we might look back at this in 5 years, similar to a, Chat GPT type moment for creatives. All right. Speaking of potential job loss and doing things differently, Andrew Yang is sounding the alarm on AI and jobs. So the former U.S. presidential candidate, Andrew Yang, has warned that AI could cut up to 50% of white-collar jobs as companies pursue efficiency and cost-cutting measures. So Yang explained that the stock market will reward companies that reduce headcounts and penalize those that don't, creating pressure to automate office jobs. Weird. That's exactly what I said in the very first episode of Everyday AI in 2023. Anyways, the ripple effects will extend beyond office workers to service industries like dry cleaners, dog walkers, and hairstylists. Well, according to Yang, as fewer people go to offices and reduce demand for those services. So he had previously advocated for a $1,000 monthly universal basic income, or UBI, to support workers displaced by automation and AI technologies. So a related stat here. So a recent YouGov poll found that 63% of US adults expect AI to reduce jobs, while only 7% believe it will create new ones. And if you're a longtime listener on this show, you already know my take. AI will ultimately, quote unquote, take more jobs than it creates. And I do think the future of full-time work is very different than we've grown accustomed to over the last few decades. So this debate comes amid a broader discussion about AI safety and risks, highlighted by some top researchers that have resigned from leading AI organizations over the last month or so, as AI's capabilities continue to change, right? One thing, and I'm glad that we're seeing more economic-based benchmarks out of the big AI labs, such as GDP Val, right? But we're starting to see how even a base model that you use on the front end can complete full knowledge worker tasks front to back in a single prompt. If you know what you're doing, if you're using the right model, if you're providing the right context, yeah, AI models are better than almost all of us at knowledge work, right? If you can sit in front of a computer and you have to do something, and that's probably most of us listening, yeah, today's AI models, according to benchmarks that are judged blindly by experts, AI models are better across the board. All right, in our last big AI news story of the week, we got some more details on what OpenAI is reportedly working on for their consumer hardware. And at least one of the things that they're working on is a little surprising. So OpenAI is preparing to enter the hardware market with a new family of AI-powered devices, starting with a smart speaker expected to launch no earlier than February of 2027. So according to reporting from The Information, OpenAI currently has, get this, more than 200 employees working on AI devices, including, here's the three: the smart speaker, smart glasses, and a smart lamp. Yeah, that's what I need. Light that tells me what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. All right. Anyways, the first device, according to reports, could be released, or might be, the smart speaker that could be priced between $200 and $300, featuring a built-in camera to gather data about users and their environments. Yeah, I know a lot of people, if that is the ultimate how the device lives, a lot of people aren't going to like that, but we've had that for a long time, y'all. Like Meta's had their, kind of laptop, or not laptop, their kind of iPad-esque, swivel smart assistant that has a camera. There's multiple versions of the Amazon smart device that has that. So a lot of people are going to say like, oh my gosh, a camera. It's been happening for like close to a decade. Anyways, the smart speakers camera capability suggests a focus on enhanced interaction and contextual awareness, potentially changing how users interact with AI at home. So mass production of OpenAI's smart glasses is not expected until 2028, indicating a longer development timeline for the wearable tech. So the hardware push follows OpenAI's $6.5 billion acquisition of IO Products, the startup founded by famed and former Apple designer Johnny Ive, showing a strategic investment in design and augmented reality. So the move places OpenAI in direct competition with companies like Meta, which has found success with its Ray-Ban AI-enabled smart glasses that feature cameras for recording and streaming. Also, we've seen recent reports that say Apple and Google are close to developing and releasing their own smart glasses. So OpenAI has not yet publicly commented on these plans, but the company's entry into hardware could impact how AI tools are integrated into daily work and life. So this goes back to that initial report, right, that shows, Anthropic's revenue may catch or surpass OpenAI's. And I'm like, nah, not in the long run. I don't think so, right? Because OpenAI, a lot of people have maybe called them distracted over the past year or so as they've started to work on their own infrastructure, right, on their own chips, partnering with others, but on their own chips, on their own consumer hardware devices, right? Going different places on the software side. So people are, I think have been saying, and plenty of reports are saying, oh, OpenAI is not focused. And I would say the opposite. I'd say OpenAI understands the writing on the wall that if you just rely on the majority of your revenue to come in through API, which I think I could be wrong, right? But I think that's where Anthropic has really been, taking it to the bank at any point, right? The way systems are built now, they're built modularly, right? So I would think Anthropic at any point could lose billions of dollars with people snapping their fingers and saying, oh, now all of a sudden Gemini is untouchable, right? It's a third of the cost and twice as powerful. I'm switching off, right? Or as these, Chinese models that may or may not be distilling from American US companies offer free or free 99 cheap AI models that are outperforming Anthropic's models on certain benchmarks. I don't see what's going to, lock people into Anthropic. Whereas OpenAI and Google and technically, Microsoft by proxy, I think that have much more long-term stability when it comes to future revenue production, at least compared to Anthropic. So I don't know. There's my random 2 cents. All right. Yeah, Joe says, when they invent a wearable Star Trek communicator pin, I'll start listening. But seriously, a smart speaker? Hey, I personally, I can't wait for the new Google Gemini at Home to come out, because even the new, Alexa, sorry, I know I say that out loud sometimes, and then I get emails about how I trigger everyone's smart device at home. I have the new Alexa, Plus, and it stinks. It's not good. It's absolutely terrible, right? So we've been waiting for this new smarter version of Amazon's assistant for like 2 years. It comes out. I can't use it. I mean, I can use it. It's absolutely terrible. So I'm fine with the smart speaker. Maybe that's just my personal use, right? My wife and I are constantly, asking smart speakers for things. So I'm happy that OpenAI is reportedly getting into the game. I can't wait for maybe its release. I know it's supposed to be released in spring, but the new Google Gemini Home, right? Give me an actual AI powered smart assistant that works. That's all I want. Right. All right. Enough of that rant. Let's go over the bullet points on what's new and what's next. So we went over the top, each week we usually do the top 7 or 8 stories, give them a little more depth, but there's always so much to cover. So at the end, we go over the what's new and what's next. Sometimes these are smaller news stories that have already happened. Sometimes they're rumors or leaks. All right, but let's get into them because there's a lot. And some actually pretty big ones, if I'm being honest. Okay, so OpenAI rolled out interactive code blocks in ChatGPT. They're really good. Anthropic released Claude Code Security, which finds hidden code flaws. XAI dropped Grok 4.2.0 beta. Yeah, of course, it's called Grok 420, with 4 AI agents working together for faster, smarter responses. Microsoft is testing a unified tasks feature for Copilot. Meta expanded their NVIDIA deal to buy millions of AI chips from the chip maker. Figma partnered with Anthropic to more easily transform AI code into editable designs. Replit released their Gemini 3.1 powered animation feature where you can just vibe code a video now, right? It's more of like a typography-based video, but still really, really good. Google released Lyria 3. Yeah, this could have been a news story. Really good. The updated version of its AI music generator. Claude Code on desktop can now preview the code and running apps. That's been a great update, FYI, that I've been using a lot. Google released its Google AI Professional Certificate from the Grow with Google program. Reports show OpenAI is rolling out a new Pro Lite plan. All right, so reportedly going to be $100 for a light version of the Pro plan versus the normal $200 Pro plan. We'll see. I've been on the $200 Pro plan for a while. I use it a ton. I don't like running into limits, especially on ChatGPT. So, but I'm guessing it's going to be pretty popular. World Labs raised $1 billion to advance 3D spatial AI. Microsoft is testing their version of Notebook LM's deep dive in Copilot Online with essentially, kind of 2 virtual or AI characters debating something. Speaking of that, Notebook LM rolled out slide revisions. Actually, looking back at it now, that should have been its own news story, if I'm being honest. So many people use different AI tools to get slides, right? And but the problem is there's always some things wrong or some things you want better. Well, now Notebook LM that is powered by Nano Banana Pro has slide revisions. Big. All right, Pika Labs released Pika AI Selves, which is supposed to be kind of AI avatar versions of yourself with persistent memory. OpenAI updated its invite-only Aardvark security tool and rebranded it as Codex Security. Anthropic made Claude in PowerPoint available to pro users, so now to all paying users and not just those on the Max plan. OpenAI added tab organization to its Atlas browser. ChatGPT ads are now live and being tested in some free and also ChatGPT Go accounts. Meta's ad manager now features Manus AI tools. So yeah, Manus features rolling out in Meta features rolling out in Manus, a lot there since the acquisition. Some new leaks show that OpenAI may be closer to releasing its adult mode and an actual something. My gosh, thank you, OpenAI, for this one. OpenAI expanded the context window to 256,000 tokens in GPT-5 thinking modes. This is fantastic. I love this. All right, so a lot happening in today's show. So I hope this was helpful. So if you do find value, whether it's in our Monday AI News That Matters update or you're listening throughout the rest of the week, you know what? I would really appreciate it if you did one thing real quick. If you are listening on the podcast, please, whether it's, Apple or Spotify, Player FM, wherever you're listening, please take a couple of seconds to subscribe to the show. That really helps us and helps others that are looking for an unbiased way to keep up with AI news. And then also, if you could leave us a rating on those platforms, I'd really appreciate it. And then, like I said, if you are listening online, repost this, help other people out. Then go listen to 712 and 713, our 2026 AI predictions and roadmap series. So thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you back tomorrow and every day for more everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.